Today's class of our Elul Kollel Baker is being sponsored by Mr. Zohar Harari. Thank you very much. It's specially dedicated to the health and success of Avram ben Michal Mesodi. We wish him a refuah shalema, a complete and speedy recovery, and in the merit of our learning Torah here, and all those that are listening and tuning in live on Facebook, or that will be listening on YouTube, all the merit of the Torah learning should be for the refuah shalema, for the health of Avram ben Michal Mesodi. Amen. Today's class is in the same theme of Tshuvah. We're going to talk about a very particular topic. It's a fundamental topic known as Bechira Chavshis, free choice. We're going to begin with the Rambam, chapter 5 of Hilchos Tshuvah, who tells us as follows. Rishus l'chol adam nesuna. The choice, the option, is given to every single person. If he wants to turn himself towards the good way and be a tzaddik, which means make the right decisions and be righteous, you have the option to do so. And at the same time, if you want to turn your way to the bad side and you want to be wicked, you have the option. The option means not that it's allowed, but it's technically possible. Don't think that because it's wrong, or because whatever a person is trying to do is really negative, that it somehow won't work out. That's not the case. If a person, in his own choice, decides he wants to do something wrong, he has the ability to do so. Hashem will actually allow him to do so. This is what the Torah tells us. A person is going to be like one of us, which means that humans have a very special quality. It's the only creature that has this quality, that we have free choice. The Rambam tells us that ein min sheni demele. There is no other type of creature like the human being who has this ability to free choice. We're not just instinctive. We can make decisions. We could decide to do things, and it's truly up to us if we'll do the right thing or we'll do the wrong thing. The person, with his own volition, b'daitoi, with his mind, with his opinions, machshavtoi, with his thoughts, he decides what he's going to do. And nobody could stop you. If you want to do a good thing, you could do it. If you want to do a bad thing, you could also do the bad thing. And therefore, the Torah continues and says, be careful, don't do the wrong thing. Because you have the choice, and if you want to, you really can. So in summary, the Rambam begins this chapter telling us that humans are unique. And the uniqueness is that we have free choice. We're able to make decisions, and therefore we're going to be held responsible for what we do, good or bad. You can never say, it's not my fault. I couldn't. Don't think, and the Rambam, I'm going to say it in the original Hebrew of the Rambam because it's quite extreme, the terminology that he uses, and quite strong. He says like this, Al yaver b'machshavtecha, don't let this pass your mind. The fools of the world, they say, v'reiv golmei b'nei Yisrael, and people that are just ignorant and don't get it, they say, sha'akadosh baruch hu geizer al adam mitchilas briyasei, that Hashem decrees upon the person from the beginning of his creation. In other words, before a person is born, there are fools that think that Hashem has already decided if he's going to be a tzaddik or he's going to be a rasha. Will this person be righteous or will he be bad? Ein adavar kain. The Rambam tells us it's not the case. Hashem does not decide what's going to happen to a person and what type of life they're going to lead. If they're going to be good or bad, righteous or wrong, this is not predetermined. Rather, every person has the ability to become a tzaddik like Moshe Rabbeinu. Okay? Not just to do the right thing. You could reach a level like Moshe. You could be that righteous. Regardless of what parents you were born to, what environment you grew up in, what your surroundings are, you have the ability to achieve, to become great like Moshe Rabbeinu. And unfortunately, at the same time, a person could also be a rasha like your Rava, who for a great amount of time caused tremendous difficulty for the Jewish people and tremendous influence in a negative way, getting you to do the wrong thing. So a person has the choice. You weren't born good. You weren't born bad. You're making these decisions. Or if you're going to be wise or foolish. Now here commentaries ask a very interesting question. The Rambam seems to imply here that it's up to you if you're going to be wise or you're going to be foolish. And we know that before a person is born, Hashem, the Malach comes to Hashem and he asks him three things. What is the fate of this person that we're about to create? Is he going to be wise or foolish? Is he going to be strong or weak? Is he going to be wealthy or poor? And these three things are predetermined. So when a person is born, it's already set if he's strong or not. Is he wise or foolish? Is he going to end up being wealthy or not? So why does the Rambam here tell us that whether you're going to be wise or foolish, that's a decision? It's not a decision. It's predetermined. So there's a very interesting commentary which was written by Rabbi Meir Rothenberg. Meir Rothenberg was a very great tzaddik, a very great rabbi. And the story is that he was captured, and the king wanted a ransom to get him out. And of course the Jewish people gathered together and they said, we have to raise the amount of money. It was a huge amount of money to get Rabbi Meir Rothenberg out of captivity. He was being held in a dungeon in the king's castle. For nothing that he did wrong. The king just wanted money. And they tried to scrape together money and they couldn't. So then his student, the Rosh, he traveled to all these neighboring countries around Germany, and he raised enough money to get him out of captivity. But one thing happened. Reb Meir found out that they want to redeem him, that the Jews came up with the ransom. So he sent a secret message to the Jewish people and he said, absolutely not. Do not redeem me. Because if you're going to pay money, the ransom money, to get me out, then tomorrow the king is going to abduct someone else. It works. If you ever run out of money, or you ever have a project, or you ever have a war that the king has to wage, and it costs money to wage the war, big deal. Just capture a Jew, the more prominent the better, and tell the Jews that you need to, they have to pay to get him out. Don't pay the money. The king already knew that the Rosh has gathered the money, he collected it, and he was very upset. The Rosh had to escape to be saved from being taken and tortured and so on and so forth. But Rameir insisted he's not getting out of jail. And he didn't. He actually ended up passing away there, and years later his body was given to the Jewish people. It was also redeemed for a great sum of money, which is a story in its own. However, while he was in jail, he wrote many things. And one of the things he writes is an explanation on this chapter of the Rambam. The Rambam says it's up to a person if you'll be wise or you'll be foolish. But it's not. It's predetermined. Whether you're going to be good or bad is up to you. But if you're smart, if you're born with it, you could perhaps develop wisdom. You could learn a lot. You definitely can. But your smartness, that's predetermined. You're born with it. So he says like this, when the Rambam is referring to here smart or foolish, what he means is you're going with ideas and you're deciding to subscribe to a school of thought which is wise or silly. A lot of times we use the expression, you're doing something silly. Well, I'm doing it silly, maybe I don't think it's silly. He says, no. There's just two concepts of silly and two concepts of wise. Being smart is something which you're born with. But you could also say, I'm going to do the smart thing. Right? Because you understand that if it's coming from Hashem, if Hashem has directed and said this is the right thing, that it's got to be a good thing. And someone that makes the wrong decisions, that goes down the wrong path, he's choosing to behave in a foolish way. So the Rambam is stressing that every person has the ability to choose what path you want to take in life. Or are you compassionate, or you're cruel. Nobody could say, listen, that's just my personality. That's the way I am. I'm just a very compassionate person. I'm very merciful. Or you say, listen, I'm sorry, I don't have patience. I have a short temper. There's nothing I can do about it. It's not the case. You can decide that you want to become compassionate. You can decide that you don't want to be cruel. It's something which is fully in your abilities to make that decision. But we'll take questions soon. Oi, chilai, oi sheya. Or a person could decide if he's going to be stingy, or someone that gives a lot, he thinks in a large way. Okay, so people make the mistake and they say, it's just the way I am, it's my mentality, it's who I am. I grew up that way, it impacted me, that's just who I am. I'm a giver. Or no, I'm very stingy. Not just with people, even with myself. People could think that. Comes the Rambam and tells us these are attitudes, these are values that you could train yourself to behave in either direction. And therefore you're never excused by saying, sorry, that's how I was born. You're not born that way. And even if you have a tendency, or you grew up in a certain environment that tends to be that way, you could still change. Nobody is forcing you, and nobody is decreeing it upon you, and nobody is pulling you in either direction. It's only man on his own, the human on his own has the choice which direction he wants to go. As the great prophet Yirmiyahu said, from the heavens, which means from Hashem, no bad or good about the decisions of a person comes out. It's up to you. You want to do the right thing, you do it. You don't want to, you don't. Kileimar, which means the Creator does not decree on a person if he should be good or he should be bad. And therefore, the person that does something wrong, the person that commits a crime, the person that sins, he did it to himself. You can't say, sorry, that's just who I am. That's not who you are. It's a decision that you made. And therefore, a person that makes a mistake, it's correct that he should cry and feel bad and regret the things that he's done and the damage that he caused onto his own soul, and he has to clean it up. He can't say it's beyond my control. I couldn't help it. That's why the pasuk tells us, why is a person crying about his sins? Fix them. Don't take the attitude and say, this is who I am, this is how I have behaved, this is my track record, I failed and failed, I messed up here, I messed up there, that's who I am. Don't say that. Because you have the ability to change it. And the first thought that comes to mind, I can't because that's who I am, that's incorrect. As the Rambam stresses, we have free choice. So even if I spent decades doing the wrong thing, I have the ability to change it. Even those things that people say, oh, it's part of your personality. It's just the way you operate. It's not. You could change good or bad. And therefore he continues and he says, because we have permission and we did it on our own, we should do Tshuvah, because we have the ability to go search within our ways, within our deeds, within our past actions, and fix them. And the Rambam tells us this is not some kind of small side concept about free choice. It's a ikar gadol. It's a very fundamental, and it's a pillar of Torah mitzvahs. This concept that free choice exists to the human being, and it even throws itself out in our opinions, in our values, in the way that we make decisions, it's a fundamental aspect of Torah mitzvahs. That's what the pasuk tells us in Devarim. It says, Hashem says, look, I'm putting in front of you the life and the good, the death and the bad. These are two paths. And you could choose. You want to go this way or you want to go that way. And if you want to go the wrong way, Hashem will help you go there. It's your call. Look, I'm giving it before you blessing and curses, which means these are two options a person can decide where he wants to go. You have the choice. Whatever you want to do, you can go ahead and do it. Whether they're good or whether they're bad. That's how we have the ability to have reward and punishment. Because if you were created good, why did you get rewarded? You didn't do anything. That's just natural for you. And if you did the wrong thing, why is he getting punished? That's just the way he operates. It's not the case. We have to know that we have choices, and we're responsible, and therefore get rewarded or punished based on what we do. It means as follows: the Creator does not force any person, nor does He decree upon them to do good or bad. Everything is given over to the person. You have the choice if you want to do it or you don't want to do it. We'll stop after halacha 3 of chapter 5. We'll take some questions.
It's not
Ready?
Yeah.
That's an interesting story about don't redeem me. I thought it was a mitzvah deraisa to redeem, and I thought it is discussed that some Arabs or whoever it was actually their parnosa to steal Jews and get money for them, and it's still a mitzvah to redeem. So, what is the difference?
Let me repeat the question. The question is, we mentioned the story of Rothenberg that he requested not to be redeemed. We know the greatest mitzvah you could do is redeem a Jew from captivity. It's called pidyon shvuyim, get him out, right? And unfortunately, throughout history, Jews were captured all the time. And here the Jews have the opportunity to redeem him, and they raise the money, he doesn't let. There was a takonas chachamim. There was a establishment that our sages have made, not to redeem Jews for more than the value. Okay? What was the point of this thing? Because what happened was, Jews became prime target for kidnapping. Anytime there was a boat, if pirates knew there was a Jewish boat, they would capture them. You could show up at any port, not their community, any port in the world, find the Jewish community and say, we have a Jew, pay. So the Jew said, listen, we are only paying the going rate. What's the price for a slave of this and this age, this and this ability, this and this health? Whatever the going rate is, we'll pay. We're not going to pay more. So much so that even if the family wanted to pay more, they wouldn't let. Why? Because the kidnapping was out of control. And it helped. Right away, the kidnapping went down because the market just worked itself out. No one's paying more than what's worth. Which means there is a precedent to say, especially when he said it about himself, I don't want to be redeemed because my being redeemed will cause more kidnappings tomorrow. So it's a great mitzvah, and maybe there is a price that they should redeem me, but not an astronomical price that this fellow had to go to multiple cities around entire Western Europe and try to raise money, and he barely made it because it was a tremendous amount. Take the leading rabbi of the time, lock him up, of course Jews are going to pay. So it's still a mitzvah, but he has the right to say, for the sake of the Jewish people, I'll sit here. Because tomorrow, other people will be kidnapped. It'll be the latest way to make money. Yeah.
As far as the free choice, when and I'm speaking for myself, when we say, that's the way I am. Let's say I'm angry or I'm whatever. Is it, or I was born this way, I cannot change. Do you specifically mean the middles, as far as if my middles are good or bad, or what exactly is the thing that we can change or we can have free choice on?
Okay, so the basic concept of free choice is actions. You decide what you want to do, what you don't want to do. But the Rambam takes this further and he says your values, your characteristics, you also have the ability to do that. The example he brought was, am I going to be benevolent or am I going to be stingy? Am I going to be large and giving and trying to be there for others, or am I constantly going to be very, very miserly? So this is something which is not only an action, it's also a value, it's a personality, it's a mentality. And he says this is also in our control, in our midas. It's not just action, it's also attitude. Now, it doesn't mean it's always so easy for each person, but we do have the choice to do so.
So, my question, like you mentioned earlier, that it was cultural. So, when we came, say, from Russia, and we came in the country, being religious was just totally out of, how should I say it?
Out of the norm.
Yeah, it's not just norm, it was not natural. Yeah, out of norm. But it was not natural. For example, in my case, a couple times I attempted to go to synagogue and I'm like, okay, what am I doing here? It was very strange. There was, at that time, a whole bunch of older people saying something I couldn't understand. And I'm like, okay, I'll try that. So, and the life outside seems very natural, even though it was different than Russia. It just felt more normal. So for years, it was not a choice.
Okay, so the question is,
My question is that it seems there was no choice. I could choose between this and this.
okay, so the ability to choose is there. We're talking about a different topic where a person doesn't understand the value of the right path.
Yeah.
Okay, so we discussed this many times. There's something called Tinek Shenishba, a child that was kidnapped as a child and taken away from any Jewish life. And that could be compared to growing up in communism or growing up in any country which is atheistic, or someone that didn't have the opportunity to get a Jewish education and Jewish values. Okay, so they're not held responsible for those types of decisions because they don't even know that the decision exists.
Yeah, but
The Rambam is giving us an example when a person knows the decision, and then he says, "That's not who I am. I can't do it. It's not my personality." You could. It's your call. Now, I don't understand the importance of it. That's a different issue. But what he's negating here is the opinion that people have predetermined paths in life.
yeah, I felt like predetermined that for that period of time, I was supposed to go that way.
But it's not predetermined. It's very different. That's because you don't know about it. You grew up in a different environment. But choices, the person has the ability to do it. He has. He's not held responsible for it because he grew up in a different environment and didn't know better. He was captured, as a little kid.
But at this point, I'm not dealing with the issue of consequence. I'm just trying to figure out.
So of course you have a choice. Technically, you have a choice. You can't be blamed, but you have a choice.
But it seems it was so not natural. Like,
What you're saying is you have people that grow up in a place which is void of Torah mitzvahs.
right,
Okay? Or let's take an example. Someone grows up in a certain neighborhood, even in Chicago,
right,
and they have no idea that there is a certain normal way of behaving regarding, let's say, manners. Okay?
right.
They have a choice to do so. They just don't know about it. Okay, so when they know about it, they can make the choice. But it's not predetermined that they can't do it. They won't get punished because they don't know better. It's a whole different.
For example,
Let's talk about this topic a little more after because you have a lot to cover today. Okay. If Hashem, if Hashem would decree upon a person to be righteous or wicked, or there was something which pulls the person in any type of path to be stingy or to be mean or to be impatient, or to some of the opinions or the schools of thought, or to different actions, the way some people think, how could the prophets tell us, do this, don't do that? They come and they tell the Jewish people, improve your ways, be good, be bad, don't be bad. How can he tell us to do that? We're born that way. That's the greatest proof, says the Rambam, that's the greatest proof that we have choices. Because if we don't have choices, how can you command me to do anything? It's already decided if I'm going to be good or if I'm going to be bad. Will the judge of the entire earth not do righteousness? How can you come to a person and punish him, says the Rambam, if he didn't have free choice? Some people are created good people, and some people are created bad people. And therefore you must say that we have free choice. Here's the question. We know that Hashem is all-knowing. He knows everything, right? And if Hashem knows everything, then He knows what you're going to do in your life. And He knows what your life is going to look like in 10 years from now, and tomorrow, and in 20 years. And He knows each person at the end of their life, what are they going to look like? What is the end result? Were they good or were they bad? So on the one hand, you're telling us, oh, we have free choice. And it's fundamental. And we believe in it. And if you think otherwise, it's foolish. At the same time, you're telling us that Hashem knows everything that's going to happen. How could you know and still have free choice?
He will know what we'll choose.
So how is it not free choice?
It's not a contradiction. It's
not a contradiction. The question is how.
How?
So the Rambam says that this is something which is hard to understand. It's greater than the vastness of the sea, is a term that he uses, because this concept that on the one hand Hashem could know, and on the other hand His knowledge doesn't impact. But he brings a few different points which will help us understand it. I want to share them, and some other explanations about Hashem knows what's going to happen to us, but at the same time, it doesn't negate our free choice. Let's first understand that the human mind works in such a way that the only way I could know something for sure is either it's not changeable or it's in my control and therefore it's not going to change. If something is changeable, it's a variable, I could guess, I could assume, I could speculate, I could maybe tell you based on statistics 99.99% what's going to happen here, but it's not for sure. It's not 100%. Okay, for example, you go to the airport and there's a flight that takes off from Chicago and it's going to New York. Is it going to New York? It's going to New York. For sure? 100%? It says on the ticket. It happens so every day for the last I don't know how many years. That 9 a.m. flight gets to New York. But is it possible that it'll be diverted? Is it possible it'll be a storm? They'll circle and circle and they will run out of gas and have to land somewhere else? It's possible. Has it happened? Yeah, it happened. So I can't tell you that I know for sure. I can tell you probably I paid money for the ticket, assuming that's the case. People are willing to back it up. They make plans based on that, big plans. But anything can go wrong. So it's not for sure if you're not in control. Okay. So therefore we assume that if Hashem knows what's going to be, that the plane will arrive in New York, that He knows, that He controls the plane. Because if there's a pilot flying this plane, and it's not in my control, and the weather is not in my control, and whatever the control towers decide, I don't have a choice about. So then, whatever happens, happens. I can tell you what I think, but I can't tell you for sure. The only way you can know for sure in human mind is if you control it, or it's unchangeable. Hashem works differently. The fact that He knows something is not because He controls it. It's not because it's impossible to change. He has knowledge of the future, just like He has knowledge of the present. Not because He controls it. Certain things Hashem decided He's not controlling. And that's your choices. So although it's hard to grasp, because in our mind we don't operate that way. You can't know for sure unless it's not changed. If it's changeable, how could you know? Who knows what's going to happen? And if you do know, then your mind tells you right away, then there's no possibility it'll change. So it's difficult to understand that Rambam recognizes that, but at the same time we say it's Hashem's knowledge is not like the human knowledge. It's not something outside Himself. There's me and I know what's going to be because I have information or because I could control it. Rather, Hashem knows it because Him and His knowledge is one. He knows everything. And He decided that we have choices. And therefore Hashem doesn't decide, He doesn't tell us what to do. He tells us what to do, but He doesn't force us to do it in any particular way. And many people make a mistake and they think they're contradictory. Which means they assume that Hashem has decreed upon the person, let's say, to do bad or good, and a person doesn't have the ability to go into the direction that he wants. And I, says the Rambam, am explaining to you this fundamental concept that all of these ideas, when Hashem says, I'm going to punish you for something, it's because you have the ability to do it. You have the choice to make it. And sometimes you look around and you say, hey, people are doing the right thing, the wrong thing, and they're not getting punished. Or people are doing the right thing and they're not getting rewarded. You should know that always a person will be punished for their actions or rewarded for their deeds. The exception is if he does Tshuvah. If a person does Tshuvah, he won't be punished for the things that he's done. It's possible to get away from that Avera that he did. And there's a famous question we have about Parai. We talk about free choice. Parai, it says, that Hashem hardened his heart. He didn't let the Jewish people go out of Mitzrayim. How do you explain free choice when you say that Parai, he let the Yidden stay? One of the arguments is, Torah says that Jewish people will be slaves in Egypt, and the Egyptians are going to torture them and hurt them. And Parai comes along and says, why are you punishing me? It was in the book. It said in Torah, they're going to get punished. So I did what you said. If I want to do it, someone else will do it. It was going to happen. And Parai went and he slaughtered Jewish children and bathed in their blood. And he killed so many of them and hurt them in labor for many, many, many years. The worst exile the Jews went through. And then you come and say, you're punishing me? There are many answers. First of all, you don't have to be the one to do it. Okay? Even if something has to happen to somebody, you have a choice if you're doing it or not. Okay? A person that hurts somebody else can't come along afterwards and say, listen, it was God's plan. That wouldn't have happened, right? You don't have to be the one to do so. You have to make your decisions, and you have those abilities not to make the wrong choices. And secondly, Parai reached a level where Hashem said, you're so bad, I'm taking away the choice from you. Which means, the first 5 plagues that Egyptians went through, it doesn't say that Hashem hardened his heart to that extent. He could still change his mind, he could still let them go. But after enough times of being so defiant to Hashem, Hashem said, you know what? I'm going to punish you. And right now, I'm not going to give you the ability to change. Now the truth is that there would still be a way, it would be very, very hard for him, because Hashem hardened his heart, he was insensitive. But there would still be a way that he could insist and do Tshuvah if he really wanted to. Because the Rambam insists that the door is never shut. But he created a scenario for himself through his behavior that it's so hard for him to do Tshuvah. That's an extreme case. You know, when Israel caught Adolf Eichmann, may his name be erased, and they brought him to trial, he wasn't going to go down so easy. Other people's lives he didn't care about, but his own life he cared about. And he brought some serious lawyers from Germany. One of them was still involved in Nuremberg. And his argument was, who am I? I'm just one piece of this whole machine that was going on there. I was a pawn. I didn't have major decisions. I mean, obviously they brought proof and different things that he said and telegrams that he wrote, and they were able to prove it in court. But the concept, and he was hanged. But the concept is that a person could come and say, I don't know, they told me to do this thing, I did it. You can never say that. You're always responsible for your action. And what the Rambam is telling us is it's a tremendously powerful lesson. On the one hand, you have free choice, and on the one hand there's the good, and on the other hand there's the bad. And don't think that because Hashem doesn't want you to do the bad, He won't let you. He will let you. He'll even help make you successful in that path. Look around the world. Do you think every person that's dishonest fails? No. They can be successful. God is the God of justice, and He will make sure that the righteous get rewarded and the evil get punished. But it's not like if you cheat, then all of a sudden it's not going to work out. It could work out. And not every person that does the right thing is successful. You still do the right thing. Imagine if anyone that stole failed. Would anyone ever steal? Maybe stupid to not steal. Yeah. If everyone did the right thing, it worked out. Of course you're going to do the right thing. It's clear as day. Do this thing. In order to have free choice, you have to have a challenge. In order to have reward and punishment, and there's somewhat of a blur going on in the world, that's how you could do something and it has value. Because despite the fact that you didn't have to, that you didn't see the benefit, you still did the right thing. And unfortunately, since the Eitz Hadas, since the sin of eating from the forbidden fruit that Adam and Chava ate, there's a mixture of good and bad in the world. And even something which is good has a little bad mixed into it, which may seem like it's difficult or it's not worth it or who cares. And every bad has some good mixed into it. There's some good component there. Maybe I'll benefit out of it. Maybe if I steal later, I'll be able to do something good. It's always, there's a fogginess that exists, and good and bad is intermixed. And this is for this reason, to have free choice. So the Rambam stresses it not just as a theological concept, but he tells us this is a ikar gadol. It's a fundamental concept. It's a pillar. A pillar means that the whole thing sits on that, of Torah and mitzvahs, our life in this world. The Rebbe tells us, brought in Chassidus and from other sources, that the reason why we were created is to exercise free choice. Not that we have free choice as part of who we are. Hashem created a world because He wanted people with free choice that make the right decisions. That's what He values. And we have to look at every choice in life and say, I could. And when it seems impossible, it's because the choice it's a scenario created to make that choice more difficult for me, that I can have the value out of doing the right thing. I always have free choice. To conclude with, and stressing this concept, that although we have free choice and we can make the wrong decisions, we can still do Tshuvah, we can still fix what we've done, we could change it, and even bad choices could be reversed, transformed, and completely not leave any leftover impact in those bad things. Thank you very much. Thank you again, Zayah Harari, for sponsoring today's class. We are for Shlema to Rambam Laws.
Questions?
Yeah, questions.